Hello, explorers, and welcome back to the continent of Milgana. I know it's been a while, I'm sorry about that. The time has not gone to waste, though. As I was working on the Pyrenean Empire video, which was supposed to be next, I realized I really wasn't happy with the state of Milgana's map. It was so undetailed, there were barely any rivers, and I didn't really think it looked that nice. So I decided it was time to completely redo the map. This is the new map of Milgana, redone from scratch to be a more detailed and realistic map, both in terms of information and aesthetics. You'll notice a few major changes amongst all the minor tweaks, and before we go into this new map, I'll point those out for you. First, the borders are different. Whereas the previous borders were nothing more than arbitrarily squiggly lines, these new borders follow the land, the rivers, while still retaining a healthy amount of randomness. This means that every nation has a slightly different shape, although this is more noticeable in some cases than in others. Second, the land is different too. Not only are there many more rivers and lakes, but the terrain has been edited a lot. The rough coasts are rougher, the smooth coasts are actually smooth. Many areas look different than they did before, and a lot of islands that didn't previously exist add more to the once barren seas of Milgana. Finally, one nation has actually had its name changed. You may notice the Grand Maritime Confederation has become the Southern Maritime Confederation. I just thought that this new name was a bit more descriptive and fit the vibe of the Confederation more than the previous title. With that introduction done, let's take a look at the revitalized version of the continent of Milgana. Today, we're going to be looking at the physical features of this new map. First, the topographic map of the continent. Milgana on the whole is not very mountainous. Even the most extreme mountain ranges on the continent are called home by millions of people and only reach average altitudes of around 2,000 meters. Still, these formations are important to the geography of Milgana. Split into two major highland regions, the mountainous spine of central Milgana runs right through the middle of the continent. In the north are the Sarkita Mountains of northwestern Hakar, surrounded by the Sarkita Highlands. This highland actually splits into three great fingers, all within the Faltan-Torsti Union. From west to east, these are the Torsti Plateau, the Fjorda Plateau, and the Hitorla Plateau. While not particularly extreme, these three plateaus make for stunning landscapes that have attracted travelers for centuries. In central Milgana are the Touristi Mountains, located primarily with the Travtol Commonwealth. More populated than the Sarkita Mountains, the Touristis are far more expansive in their reach. Similarly, the region around the Touristis is referred to as the Touristi Highlands. To the west of the Touristis is the Aline Plateau, homeland of who else but the Aline people. The majority of the plateau is within Alineville and is the home of the majority of the population. Southeast of this plateau are the Tisha Mountains of the sparsely populated northern provinces of Shistin. Considered sacred to the dwindling populations of the Tio people, these mountains are primarily only populated on the comparatively flat edges of the range. South of the Tishas are the relatively tame Hiritsa Mountains, backbone of the kingdom of Shistin. Flatter yet colder, the Hiritsas make for a miserable journey for those wishing to visit the core of Shistian power, culture, and economy in the south. To the east, the Galatesian Mountains mirror the Hiritsas. However, unlike their western counterparts, these mountains are much more populated. This is mostly because they are located more northwards of the Hiritsas, and so make for a milder climate for those wishing to reside in them. Now, you may have noticed that the mountainous core of Milgana seems to be pinched into an hourglass shape by vast lowlands to the west and east. In the west is the Puirni Depression, the densely populated lowland that birthed the longest-lasting empire in history. To the east is the Skoha River Valley, heartland of the modern empire of Hakar. Additionally, the Tisha Valley in the south drives a wedge between the Tisha and Tolostai Mountains and the Aline Plateau. Now that we've covered the topography of Milgana, let's take a look at the makeup of the landmass in the first place. Apart from the main continent, there are four major peninsulas, all with their unique circumstances. Starting in the southwest, we have the Hashita Peninsula, home to the kingdom of Shistin. Though geographically, most of the kingdom lies above the peninsula, the majority of the population lives in Hashita, and that is considered the true kingdom. Though this will primarily be touched on in the Shistin video, I'll mention this briefly here. In the kingdom of Shistin, the further you are from the core, that being the southern protuberance on the peninsula here, the less Shistian you're considered. Those living in this core are generally accepting of those in northern Hashita, though they're typically portrayed in Shistian literature and public imagination as poorer and undereducated. This cannot be said for those who live in the northern reaches of the kingdom as a whole. The millions who live in the north are seen as subjects rather than citizens, and not afforded the same privileges as those who do live in Hashita. Typically, these people are only able to move to the south if they possess specific talents or skills. Otherwise, they are often unwelcome in the wealthier south. The next peninsula is the less prominent Gala Peninsula in the southeast. This peninsula is split between Galatesia, Hakar, and the Southern Maritime Confederation, or SMC. After the collapse of the Ligas Federation and Galatesia's subsequent independence, Hakar seized the land that currently constitutes their portion of the peninsula. This has shifted the demographics of the region, as more ethnic Sakarths and Skorhaks have been moving to the region in recent years. This is in contrast to the Galas of Galatesia and the northern SMC, who have historically occupied the peninsula, if you couldn't tell by the name. This group still makes up the majority of the peninsula's population, though. The northern SMC, home to the capital Hitisho, is mostly populated by Galas, although people from the various islands of the SMC have formed notable diasporas in the area. Far to the north is the Galirto Peninsula, now owned by the Empire of Hakar as an imperial possession. Though previously an eastern territory of the Faltan Torsti Union, the area was conquered by Hakar in their recent invasion, and is now administered by the Empire. The peninsula is primarily inhabited by the stateless Jailitsara people. Sparsely populated, the major cities of the peninsula have seen several incidents of violence since the annexation, both by Hakari soldiers and by the local people against their new rulers. Still, the situation has yet to develop into any organized resistance against the government, at least for now. Finally, in the northwest is the Faltan Peninsula, unsurprisingly the land of the Commonwealth of Faltan, part of the Faltan Torsti Union. A warm, near-tropical land with rugged coasts, this peninsula is heavily populated, home to roughly 21 million people. Faltan is generally a pleasant place to visit and live in, and has only mild hills in certain regions. Now that we've gotten through the features of the land, let's look at the ocean. Milgana is of course surrounded by water on all sides. It's the only landmass known to exist in the world, referred to by Old Pyrenees scholars as Riloja, literally Big Horizon. Rumors of other continents have been around since time immemorial, but proof has never been discovered. These rumors have actually gained some traction in recent years, however, as pieces of a ship, along with unknown coins, washed up on an island in southwestern Schistine. Still, another landmass has never been recorded by any explorers in known history. There have been somewhat accepted claims by sailors of various uninhabited islands somewhere to the east, however. As for the waters actually known to those on Milgana, there are 9 seas, as well as 3 major gulfs. The gulfs are the Gulf of Feltan, with its warm waters and many ports, the Gulf of Frotsa, home to the Jailitsara people, and the Gulf of Doril, named for a Pyrenean hero, although the name has become the subject of controversy in the kingdom of Filkti. Now for the seas, starting in the northeast. Here we have the Sea of Memory. Its name comes from myths among various cultures and peoples that the denizens of Milgana all have their origin in some paradise far to the northeast. While this has never been confirmed, the belief seems to transcend culture, and is seen by many across the land as sacred truth. Still, in more recent times, the majority of people don't really believe the tale, viewing it as nothing more than a fantasy story. Next is the Fractured Sea, so named for the many islands it contains. Wedged between Ippoligo and Faltan Torstina, the sea is constantly filled with merchant ships. Next is the Hakari Sea, south of the Sea of Memory, named of course for the Empire of Hakar. South of that is the Sea of Crows, named for an old Gallus folk story about a flock of crows guiding lost sailors to safety after a brutal naval battle. To the west is the Golden Sea, named because of the massive amounts of trade conducted throughout it, though this has slowed since the collapse of the Ligas Federation. West of that is the Silver Sea. Forming a nice parallel to the Golden Sea, the Silver Sea is so named because of a practice conducted by Shistian ships for hundreds of years, in which ships passing too close to the shores of the kingdom would be stopped and forced to pay for passage in silver, lest their crews be enslaved and their cargo stolen. Important to note is that this practice has been discontinued for ages now. Far to the southwest is the rarely explored Sea of Vision. With violent waters and frigid temperatures, there's little reason for any ship to stray this far. The name Sea of Vision comes from the reported experience of sailors who've sailed to the sea and come back alive, who claim to see visions of gods on the horizon, floating above the water and warning them to turn back. Many unrelated ships have had entire crews report this phenomenon, which has yet to be explained. North of the Silver Sea is the Sea of Phantoms. Its name comes from the tens of thousands who've perished in naval battles in the area over the years. Some say that you can hear the drowning gasps of lost sailors if you stray too far from the coast. Finally is the Copper Sea, named simply for the large reserves of copper in Faltan, and the ships that traverse the sea to transport it. with that, we're going to finish off this video. Thank you so much for watching. It'll be much less of a wait until the next one this time. Goodbye. Thanks for watching the video. Um, it has been quite a while since the last one. I did not plan on that to happen. I was planning on making a Puerny Empire video really quick, and I was working on it. I'm like, dude, this map kind of sucks. So, completely redid it. Starting from square one, so hopefully this is going to be a lot better. Also, to address some things people were saying previously, yes, Milgana does kind of look like Asia. That's not honestly intentional. I mean, yes, a car, its shape is obviously inspired by China in some way, but overall, the continent was not meant to look like Asia. And then the second people are like, Shistine is India, uh, the Maritime Confederation is Southeast Asia. I'm like, holy shit, I literally just made Asia. That was not intentional. I didn't notice until uh, a lot of people pointed out to me. Whoopsies. But anyway, thanks for watching. I'll be back soon. Probably in a couple weeks. There'll be another video. That's my guess. But anyway, thank you. Goodbye.